Welcome to At Issue. I'm H. Wayne Wilson. We are always pleased to have you join us on the program. And we're also pleased to be discussing the 50th anniversary of several events that took place down in Alabama prior to and actually in the years afterwards, the Civil Rights Act, which was passed by Congress in 1964, so next year is the 50th anniversary. But there are several events that took place in 1963, and we're going to be talking about those and other events on a trip that was taken by Congressman Aaron Schock and a couple of students from his district down to Alabama to look at the history of the civil rights movement. And of course, we'll welcome Congressman Schock.
Thanks, H. Good to be with you.
And also, let me welcome Lydia Amissa. Lydia is a senior at Richwoods High School, and we're going to talk a little bit about how she was selected. And actually, later on, we'll probably talk about where you're going to go after high school, too. But first, let's set the stage. This was a civil rights pilgrimage. Faith and Politics is the name of the organization that put it together.
Correct.
How did you become aware of this, and why was it important for you to take a couple of students down there?
Well, this is the 13th anniversary that Faith and Politics has led this trip, led by one of the leaders of the civil rights movement, who happens to be a colleague of mine in Congress, Congressman John Lewis, who represents now regions of Atlanta, Georgia, but obviously hails from towns in, actually was a part in Mississippi and Alabama and the whole region in the South during the civil rights movement. He's not only a colleague of mine, he's actually a neighbor of mine on the in the Cannon House office building. We're on the same floor and walk frequently back and forth to the Capitol each day for votes. We also serve on the same committee, the Ways and Means Committee, together. So he's become a good friend, and he had asked me a couple of years ago to come with him on the trip. The dates didn't work out. They did this year. And so I asked him if, since I was going to get to experience this, I thought it was going to be a powerful trip. And so, and a living historian like him who was there is kind of unique. And so, hearkening back to my school board days, I said, you know, how cool would this be to be able to bring some students who may have learned about the civil rights struggle, but could actually see these places firsthand and hear from someone who was there first person. So that's when I reached out to the superintendents in Springfield and in Peoria and asked them to identify a student. And Lydia must have caught someone's attention because she was selected to represent the Peoria region and did a fantastic job of doing so. And I think learned a lot, as did I.
So how did you go about, I mean, why were you selected? Do you have any idea?
Well, one of my counselors, Mr. McKenna, and the school social worker, Ms. Butler, told me that they picked me because I was like heavily involved in activities at school and like in a lot of church activities, and like I volunteer and stuff. And then they're like, you're very religious and you go to church and you know, you have great integrity and everything. So I was just like, oh, okay. So I guess that's what made them pick me.
And we should add that a young man by the name of Ansi Camel, Springfield High School senior, went on the trip as well with the congressman and with Lydia, and he was unable to join us because you can imagine matching schedules. The congressman from Washington and then Richwoods High School and Springfield High School, we couldn't get Ansi here, but
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Yeah, and we'll share the feelings here. But let me start before we show. We're going to show video of the trip, which took place March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of this year. But first, I want to hear from both of you. You had not been down there before. What was how did you feel about it beforehand, and do you have a different perspective today?
You know, I think oftentimes when you visit historical sites in our country, whether it be museums or, you know, you can go up to Ronald Reagan's home here in Illinois or Abe Lincoln's home down in Springfield, it seems a bit distant. It seems a bit, I guess, old in terms of the when you're there and you're present at the facilities. I will tell you what surprised me about this trip was the historical sites seemed very much alive. And even though in the cases of the churches, they're still very active houses of worship, in the cases of Martin Luther King's home, you know, no one lives there, it's now a museum, but the people there lived the experience. And when they talked with great energy, great passion, great insights into their personal experiences and what they saw And it really brought to life the monuments, the museums, the churches, the homes, and really made it a learning experience that I didn't quite anticipate. It was also very powerful to hear the firsthand testimony of the people, the witnesses that spoke about their interactions with Dr. King. Certainly John Lewis as one of the leaders along with Dr. King. Not only their experiences there in the South, but also the March on Washington. John Lewis, as you know, was one of a handful of speakers who spoke that day with Dr. King. And so to get to hear from him was really, again, a unique opportunity, but very much alive. It wasn't as though we were going to historical sites that we could only read about in history books, but actually talk to people who were there. And I know we'll talk about it later on in the program, but some of the testimonials from people, the forgiveness of the Wallace family who, Governor Wallace stood in the door and really, kind of tried to hold the line on segregation, and his daughter gave one of the most passionate speeches about how, her views on this issue were converted through her life, and how her responsibility was not to her parents' view on the issue of segregation, but to her own view, and a call to action to all of us to stand up for justice and stand up for what's right, regardless of perhaps what our history here in our country might be, or even our history of our own family. And I thought that was very powerful. To hear the police captain apologize to Congressman Lewis, who had been clubbed over the head, to this day has scars on his head from the clubbing, to have the police captain take off his badge and give it to Congressman Lewis because on behalf of the police force wanted to apologize for not doing what the police force should have done in protecting citizens like John Lewis and so many others who were brutally beaten that day as they attempted to walk over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So each one of these little vignettes were not only very informative, but very emotionally powerful, I think, for those of us that were lucky enough to be there.
You had an opportunity to visit at least some of these prior to this trip. What's your impression, having now gone with the congressman? In fact, this was a group of about 250 people that went on the trip, about 30 congressmen, 250 total. Did you get a different perspective after going on the trip?
Yeah, just like before I knew I was going on a trip, when I found out that I was going on a trip, I thought, wow, this is probably going to be boring, just a whole bunch of politicians, and it's probably just going to be a whole bunch of walking, going to like museums and stuff. But it was really, it was like a nice vibe to everything. There was a whole bunch of singing, like we had some of the freedom singers that were there, and they kept singing like Negro spirituals, and we were all singing "We Shall Overcome" together and all holding hands and just walking, and I thought that was just so cool. And then like the fact, like, when you think of the civil rights movement, you just think about how, like, Black people were just oppressed, and that our people were like beaten, and we went through so much. But then a lot of people forget that also white people went through a lot too. Like there were a man was talking about how he wanted to he had a store, and he wanted to let Black people come in there, shop and do all that other stuff. But a lot of the customers said that if he did that, they wouldn't come anymore. So he was just just upset. But he wanted to integrate, and a lot of white people, they wanted to just be together, just come together. But a lot of people weren't for that. So it just opened my eyes how that not just our people was affected by this, but everybody was affected. So
let me turn to the congressman real quickly. I thought I heard her say boring and congressman in the same sentence.
Sorry, I'm just...
No, so I want to ask you, so what was it like being with a congressman for 3 days?
It was cool. He's a really nice guy, and he dresses nice too, and he does. I'm
not all that boring.
Yeah, he was really fun and just lively, and we took pictures together, which I thought was real cool. And I put them on Facebook and everything, and everybody likes them. So, it was just really fun.
Well, why don't we show some pictures of you on the trip. First, let's go down to, the trip started in Tuscaloosa, the home of the University of Alabama, and we'll show you video of Foster Auditorium, and we'll see some pictures of you and Ansi during these videos. But we'll look at this first one. Here is Foster Auditorium on the campus of Alabama. And this is the location where, back in the 60s, there's Governor George Wallace, and this is where he made the statement, segregation today, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever. And tell me a little bit, Lydia, tell me a little bit. We're about to see some doors. Can you tell me about those doors that we're going to see? That the original doors to there, the original doors to the university when the governor spoke. Did you see those doors?
Yeah, we actually took pictures in front of them.
And did you get a special feeling when you saw the doors, realizing that those were the doors that the governor stood in front of and said segregation today?
Yeah, it was, I don't know like how to explain it, but I mean, you're just like, wow, this is what he said, but now look at us today, we're, you know, all together, and I mean, it just shows like change in like our society and how the school system is, I guess.
She mentioned change. Did you get a sense of change?
Yeah. Well, it's not only powerful for me to have been there to see the doors and to stand in the doorway where the governor stood, but literally steps in is where we all gathered, the shot you saw of us in the auditorium, which is where Governor Wallace's daughter spoke and gave that passionate speech I talked about, where she said, look, I didn't share my parents' view on segregation, and she became very active in the desegregation movement and in equal rights and justice for everyone. And I thought, how ironic that in the same building, just steps from the same doorway that her father stood in as governor, that her mother, who then became governor of Alabama after her father, who also continued the segregation movement, segregation today, tomorrow, and in the future. And it wasn't until she herself, I mean, how lonely, we talk about doing the right thing in society, we talk about standing up and do the right thing. How about when your mom and your dad are doing what you think is the wrong thing or taking the wrong position on something, the kind of strength that woman has to have rebuffed her own parents and to go down a different path that she thought was right. And so she gave a very passionate and powerful speech, but I just thought the irony of being in that building where it was her father that stood in that doorway, and yet she, as the daughter, took a different path and was speaking to all of us that day.
You met several second-generation people that you knew about by reading, but you met some people.
Yeah, like the Kennedys and the Johnsons, and I think there was more, I don't know. But they were all like really nice people, and they spoke. There was like a panel, and they were given questions, and they answered all of them, and it was just really good.
The trip continued in Birmingham after leaving Tuscaloosa. They bust down to Birmingham this is the 50th anniversary of the bombing of the 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham. And that, in fact, is the church right there. And we're going to see some historical picture. That's where the bombing took place, at that church. 4 young girls were killed in that bombing. Lydia, the impact on you?
It's just really sad just that somebody could just bomb such a sacred place and just destroy something so beautiful like that. And I remember them saying that on the stained glass window, like the picture of Jesus's face was like totally destroyed and everything, and it was just so heartbroken. But like going to the church, like this is my second time going to the church, but going to the church, I just felt like it's just been renewed, and that there's just a lot of change in the place now, and that like it's just better. It's just a better atmosphere, and that they have like the whole theme for the whole trip was like reconciliation. So it was just good to see that people have forgiven like the people that have done wrong to them, and they've just embraced it, and they're just, you know, just opening themselves up and just accepting everything that happened.
The word reconciliation, do you sense that and we know that there are still some people who are reticent to say, yes, I accept all races, I accept all creeds. But is that part of the intent of this trip, is to slowly but surely you can reach out to all people?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, a couple things. First, for someone who didn't grow up in the South, somebody whose family did not experience this, who I myself did not experience, it was powerful for me to better understand U.S. history and how far we've come in such a short time as a country. Second, as a policymaker, it makes you think about other inequities within our society and what justice maybe we should be fighting for in today's modern era. And finally, it made me reflect on my own life personally. Here are people who were beaten that have forgiven. Here are people who were denied the ability to pursue their own dreams, couldn't get into colleges, couldn't pursue their life's passion simply because of the color of their skin, and they've forgiven. Who am I to hold a grudge against someone who might have said something that I didn't like, somebody who may have done something to me that, that I thought was unjust? It really makes you reflect on your own life and perhaps how petty sometimes we hold things against people. I've been guilty in my short life of not wanting to talk to people when they've said mean things about me or maybe done certain things to me, and yet I think I've never been beaten over the head. I've never been denied the opportunity to pursue my dreams. And it made me respect icons like John Lewis, who I serve with, for being able to reconcile the way they have, to be able to forgive the way they have. But it also made me think as a human being how lucky I am, but also how I need to look past some of the pettiness that sometimes we as individuals can get bogged down in.
Let me turn to Lydia and ask you about, you want to go to college in Springfield, Missouri, mm-hmm. and you would like to pursue a pre-med curriculum. And that would not have been possible several decades ago, but for the efforts of these people, including Rosa Parks and Ruby Bridges. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me a little bit about how they set the stage for you?
Well, Ruby Bridges, she's actually like my childhood hero, and I got the pleasure of meeting her and actually giving her a thank you card and just thanking her for just like everything that she has done. And like, she was just so brave just to step inside a new school, a new atmosphere, despite all the hatred against her and just all the mean things that everyone was saying. And even as a little 6-year-old, she didn't even know that she was like that this was all going on. As soon as she stepped outside, she thought it was Mardi Gras. So I thought that was just like, wow. I mean, it's just crazy to just to believe that she was able to do that, because I don't think I would be able to do that, because I just don't like confrontation and all that. But she was just so brave, and I'm just like glad that she was able to do that and make a way for all of us to be able to, you know, go to school and get our education just like everybody else.
Let's go to the next piece of video, and we'll also in Birmingham. This is Kelly Ingram Park. It's near downtown Birmingham, and you'll see this is Congressman John Lewis, as Congressman Schock mentioned before, and you're going to hear him talk about what happened 50 years ago at this location.
Is where people were beaten, but they used these powerful fire hoses, water hoses, and for they use dogs to try to frighten people. And as I said earlier, the water hoses, they were so powerful. They could pick you up and then drop you. Or take bark off of the trees.
Lydia, when you hear him say those words, that it could take bark off trees, it could pick you up and knock you down, at some point, does it really impact you that you say, my word, one human is doing this to another? How did you feel? It
gives me like just the saddest feeling in the world that people are capable of doing that to another person. I mean, I could never imagine myself doing that to somebody else, but at that time people didn't care, and they were, you know, racist, and they just, you know, wanted to do whatever. So they just had hoses and dogs and did whatever to stop people from, you know, doing marches and to stop them from gathering to, you know, have equality and, you know, to, you know, desegregate and stuff. So it just hurts a lot, like, to just think of that. And I'm just like, right now I'm just like grateful and just thanking God that like I didn't have to go through that, but you know, somebody else did. But you know, look at our society now today. It's better, and I don't know. I don't know how to like really explain it, but like.
Obviously, you have a lot of emotions inside, and words are not quite reflecting what. Let's go to our next piece of video. This is in Montgomery, Alabama, and it is actually the manse to the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church in Montgomery, and this is called the King House. Now, Congressman, that's a museum now?
It is. I mean, nobody actually lives there now, but several of the ladies who are the caretakers were there when Dr. King lived there, and quite passionate about telling you about how he lived. You can see from the video, it's a very small home, and there was a bomb that went off on the front porch that he was afraid it was obviously aimed at him and his family. But he and Mrs. King's bedroom was literally at the edge of the house. Their window faced the street, and so they lived really with very little distance between them and those who hated them. And so we learned about the phone calls and the harassment that they went under or were under during that time period, and it was interesting to see kind of the humble home that he had lived in, and really mapped out the strategy for the March on Washington and the whole nonviolence resistance movement that he was the leader of.
I believe he lived there from 1954 to 1960. I think those are the dates that he lived there. We have one final piece of video from this trip down to Alabama, and it is of the Brown AME Church, and then there's the church, but you'll see the Edmund Pettus Bridge in a moment, and we'll show you some historical pictures. And this may be one of the, if not the most famous of the civil rights events. Edmund Pettus actually was a Grand Dragon of the Alabama realm of the Ku Klux Klan, named to that position in 1877. 20 years later, he became a U.S. Senator from the state of Alabama, elected to 2 terms, and there's Edmund Pettus there. He died in his 2nd term in office as a U.S. Senator. As you, here's the I believe this is 1965, the walk across the bridge, and then you're going to see the walk that occurred this past March 1st, or March 3rd rather, and that's tear gas, by the way. And I want to turn to Lydia and ask you, you had a chance to walk across this bridge. Mm-hmm. Special feeling that occurred?
Yeah, I felt like I was making history, that I was like a part of history, just walking on the bridge. And I thought it was just so cool how everybody was just coming together, and then we were all like singing songs and just walking on the bridge and just laughing, and we were all together. There was black people, white people, I mean people from all races, they were all together. So I thought that was really cool, and just like the best feeling ever, just to be a part of that.
We want to thank photographer Todd Pilon of WTVP for going on the trip with the Congressman and Lydia, and with Ansi from Springfield High School. And he provided us the video. You talked to other congressmen after the trip?
Yes.
What did you share with them, and what did they share with you?
I think everyone who was on the trip thought it was a very powerful experience. It was my first time going on the trip, but for someone like Steny Hoyer, who was the minority whip, who's a good friend of mine, he's been all 13 years. So for a lot of congressmen who go once, they come back multiple times, and I think it's because of not just, as I mentioned, it's not so much about just going there to learn about it. It's hearing the testimonials and the application that brings to today's present debate on policy and into our own personal lives about reconciliation, forgiveness, and learning from history, but also moving forward in a positive way. And I think that's what's great about our country is for 200 years, we're a pretty infant country when it comes to how old we are in human society or human history. And so the fact that we've overcome some of the challenges we've got more road to go, but I think it's amazing to see how resilient our country has been, and in the hardest hit areas like these communities in Alabama that we visited, how they've bounced back, and there has been that reconciliation and coming together, and to see how far they've come.
A final thought from you, Lydia. After the trip, 3 days down there with the congressman, with other people that you befriended, different perspective on life?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, like before the trip, you know, like I said, I thought it was just going to be some boring thing. But like now that I've heard people talk about like what they've gone through, I've heard like testimonials and everything, it opens my eyes more to our history and what our people have gone through, what everyone has gone through. And I'm just like, I want to like learn more. and get into maybe politics more too, and just help out and help make it.
So politics isn't so boring after all.
Not.
Okay, Congressman, you converted somebody.
Hey, that's great. That's what it's about.
Thank you to Congressman Aaron Schock. Usually, I'm asking you questions about Washington D.C. for a change.
Yeah.
We didn't do that.
Well, if we could get all 435 members of Congress to go on this next year or in future years, I think it would be a good thing, because I think that the lessons, the takeaways are powerful and could be applicable to maybe getting us all to get along better out in Washington.
And
DC.
thank you to Lydia Amissa, who is a senior at Richwoods and off to college in the fall. And we're off for the rest of the summer. This is the last ad issue for this particular season. We'll see you in September with a new edition. Thanks for being with us.